Hi, my name's Ann Hart and I'm one of the founder members of PB People, which is a Protective Behaviours community website, and I'm also a founder partner in the Protective Behaviours Training Partnership. And in 2018 I helped establish the Protective Behaviours Association. A bit about me: my background is in education and I've taught in every key stage, and that's where I first met Protective Behaviours, as I was working with some young people in secondary schools who didn't feel safe, and they tended to communicate this by behaving unsafely. So in 1998 I attended my first of 3 certificated foundation trainings in protective behaviours, because it took me a while to get it, and I then went on to complete specialist practitioner training, and in those days it was called extended training, and in the UK all the training was led by Margets. So by 2003 I decided I could make more of a difference by training to train protective behaviours, and I've been doing that ever since. So throughout this time, one of the most popular questions I'm asked is, what exactly is protective behaviours? And in the next 2 minutes or less, I'm hoping to explain a bit about it to you. So back in those early days, I would simply reply, well, it's a practical, down-to-earth approach to personal safety. And it's based on those physical early warning signs, also known as gut feelings, that people get when they don't feel safe. However, I now know that protective behaviours is so much more than this, and I'm taking up this invitation to provide a bit more of a thorough response. So the very first thing I'd like to highlight is that protective behaviours is the name of a process. It's a way of doing something. So it therefore has to have a capital P and a capital B in my book, Protective Behaviours. It also never ever requires an apostrophe, as the family of the late Peg Flandreau West, the person that started it all off back in the 1970s in Wisconsin, gifted the process to the people. And I do feel very proud to say that PB People and the Protective Behaviours Training Partnership and the Protective Behaviours Association are all working really hard to maintain the authenticity and the integrity of the PB process, including all the additions that were developed by Margets. In terms of its commitment, the protective behaviours focus really is about working towards creating non-violent individuals, families and communities. And it's also about encouraging people to live life to the full within a framework of safety. So it's not at all about using fear tactics or scare tactics, and being protective behaviours authentic is to avoid violent language, violent metaphors or violent behaviour. And certainly would never ever ask somebody to remember a time when they didn't feel safe. We come from the baseline of what does safe feel like. Since I qualified to teach back in 1985, I've left the profession a few times and experienced a number of different careers, including one in training in sales. And this is where I became more familiar with the term unique selling point, USP. So a unique selling point, it's also called, I think, a unique selling proposition, is by definition the essence of what makes your product or service better than the competitors. And for me, what it is in terms of protective behaviours, what protective behaviours' unique selling point, well, actually had lots of them. So I'm not quite sure if that's a contradiction in terms. I'm hoping it isn't. So I just want to share a couple of those with you now. So the protective behaviours process provides this very rigorous and robust framework, and therefore other approaches can hang from it or hang on to it. And if we use the model in protective behaviours that's called the language of safety, which was developed by Margets, if we apply the language of safety to all policies, procedure and to our practice, what that actually does, it enables protective behaviours to be embedded in the ethos of any organisation or service or setting. And the language of safety model highlights the need for quality, shared meaning, clarity and ownership in all our communication. And if we have those, relationships are enhanced and people feel empowered. Everybody that's communicating. At the heart of protective behaviours are 2 themes, and they are that we all have the right to feel safe all the time. That's theme 1. And theme 2 is that we can talk. We can talk with someone about anything, even if it feels awful or small. And these themes are underpinned by, I guess you might call them 4 concepts maybe, with rights, come responsibilities, and these are closely linked to a person's ability to respond. I suppose something you might call their respondability. Safety is at the heart of it, and what safe feels like, and the physical early warning signs that alert us to when we're on a continuum of safeness and where we are on that continuum. Do we feel safe? Does it feel a bit fun to feel scared? Are we risking on purpose? And at the other end of the continuum is that feeling of unsafe, perhaps personal emergency. And then these personal networks of support that we all need to be able to talk or communicate with in other ways. Doesn't just have to be talking. Behaviour is communication. So how do we do that in order to get our needs met and feel safer? There's so much more I could say about the PB process. I haven't even touched on the 7 strategies. They're also known as the tools for doing PBs. However, this challenge was to try and describe the process in 2 minutes or less. So to summarise, for me, Protective Behaviours is an empowering approach to life which highlights a person's right to feel safe, thereby giving them the confidence to meet the demands of living in a modern world and remaining in control of their own buttons.